Hello and welcome to this day 2 of our webinar. And the webinar theme is how to enter the fifth dimension every day and how to stay. And I'll just give you a minute to find me here. And I'll use the time to share the link. So, see if I can find me here. Yes, I can. Here I am. Copy the link and share. So. And I just shift so I have the possibility to share. And here we are. Good evening and welcome here. So good to sense you. So good to be here. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Marianne Lane. I'm a modern shaman from Denmark. Worked with energy since 2021. And no, 2012, sorry. I was just doing two things at the same time. That didn't work well. So maybe it's because of the training. So if you didn't participate on the first day, it's available at replay. And I hope you will join me here and there. So let's begin. So this is the webinar going through 3 days, how to enter the fifth dimension every day and how to stay. And this is day 2 of the webinars, how to enter the fifth dimension every day. It has disappeared. What disappeared? Am I here? Can you hear me? Can you see me? What disappeared? Can you see the slides here? The one from yesterday? Oh, okay. I ensure that it'll stay. You have to click on it. If it's still there, it's a bit odd, I know. But this program works pretty well. But it's a bit odd that when you have the replay in the groups, you need to click on the picture. Have you tried that? Is the frame still there? So if it's still there, try to click on it. I know. If it's not there, we will ensure that it will be there. Okay. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm really curious about training. Okay. How did it go? It says this is not available. Okay. We'll give you the link from the YouTube channel then. It might be this program. Yes. Thank you for sharing, so I can take care of it. I'm really thankful for this. Okay. Training. Did you train since yesterday? And not only the training with being multiple dimensional aware, but also did you experience any kind of change in your way to be in your consciousness zeroing with your strength, with your balance, with your flexibility? Any experience with this? What do you say? Have you experienced this? If you, of course, only if you joined me yesterday or joined at replay. But of course, that's difficult if the replay isn't available. I just try to give a note about it to my helpers. Then you, if you have any experiences, you can share it. And of course, it's not something you have to do, it's not a demand, it's only a question. And I know it's difficult with these things. Do I sense a difference or not? Where do I investigate this? It's difficult, but the work was about how to enter the fifth dimension. And we will move on to how to enter the fifth dimension every day. And should we open the training? So we opened the training, the zeroing, through our senses. Sigh. And then you choose one of the senses. I use my hearing this time. And then you allow the sense to kind of fill you up with as much as possible. So to me, it's about listening. You can use your eyesight, the sense of your hand on anything, the sense of your clothes and your body. Anything goes. And add on to this, you can actually also use like the sense of feeling well about it. So if you enjoy being here, the hearing, allow it to fill as much as possible. And then at the same time, if you enjoy to be here, you open this at the same time. So it doesn't need to be a physical sense. It can also be something that you sense. And we have a sharing. I felt a fine energy today, and I have tried the senses, and it's still not possible to have more than 3 if I take the sign. And that makes completely sense. And this training, it's not about having more and more. It's about to reach the zeroing state. So did you accomplish to reach the stage where you didn't have any thoughts working by themselves? Was this a part of your experience that it got quiet? Because that's the result we would like to have. Oh, it doesn't work anyway. I have to remember. So if you use the training, yes, it does. Okay, so when you use the training, the idea is to zeroing in, shutting down all the things that works by itself as good as we can. And the training is evolving itself because you get more and more aware by the zeroing and the work, and then it'll have a huger impact on your experience, and then it will be stronger. So it will be a positive spiral, or you will go in with the learning. So I have the listening open, and I use my hearing to have it to fill up as much as it can. And then I use the sense of my hands as a second one. And you can choose number 2 here, and you have the same experience with the first sense. And at the same time, now you put the second in and you let it fill you up as much as possible. And then you have the third at the same time. And when the first one pops out, or if it begins to wave around, then you have too much. My third one will be the sense of my feet. So I have my hands, the hearing, and my feet, the sense of them. And this is a zeroing. As you want to know more about why this has anything to do with the fifth dimension, then go to the first lesson, the first part of this webinar series. I have in and out of balance, but quickly in balance again. And that's also sometimes an immediately consequence of the training. Sometimes it takes a longer time before it clicks in. Okay. So we are opening now an awareness in togetherness, where we have talked about how did it go until now. When we are opening our awareness and togetherness in this fifth dimensional state, that in my definition is actually the seventh dimension. So I put it in here, the spirit of the fifth, seventh dimension. So I'll call it the seventh dimension from here, I think, or both. So in this seventh dimensional consciousness, we have a different awareness and togetherness. When we are sharing, we are inviting each other's sharing into expand our reality. In the third dimensional consciousness state, you will be in a competition with the others' sharings, the others' ideas, the other questions, and that's a huge difference. So let's talk about where in your everyday life can you do this practice. Let's collect them together in the spirit of the fifth or seventh dimension. So where did you use the practice? I have used it today when I was walking with the dogs in Orlando, inviting my senses in, the eyesight, the smell, the sound, and enjoyed the fall and the special sense of it here in Denmark. Then I did it also when I was resting a bit, because I have been doing a huge energy work last week in Portugal, so I'm still a bit, you can say, tired in my system. So I have a small rest now and then during the day. And when I did that, I did the same. I enjoyed how it felt that my body was laying down, the sense of my head on the pillow, the air, even I was inside, how fresh it felt. And then I also put in the sense of allow myself for this pause, this break. It was lovely. Do you have any ideas of where you can do this practice in your everyday life? I remember to do it when I was gardening and when I was cooking. Amazing. That's also really good surroundings for this practice. And did you experience any difference then when you had the experience? Was it different gardening or was it different cooking, or does this zeroing reminds of the state that you are actually in normally when you're doing these chores? And thank you for sharing. I also had a teaching beforehand today, and in that we had a special meditation. And in this meditation, my senses opened strong by themselves, and I have an inner experience, and then I anchored into the outer reality as well. That's actually the same practice. I made fruit in peace and smelled it and felt gratitude. I normal do not notice these things. So beautiful. Oh, I put fruit. Oh, now I understand. I put fruit in pieces and smelled it. And felt gratitude. Normally, I do not notice these things. Oh, that's also really good. And if you can keep that enhanced state of consciousness as you are consummating the fruits, it's really good as well. Thank you for sharing. And can you recognize being inspired by each other? That you're listening to these different ways to do it? That you have this experience, oh yeah, that could be fine. I could do that as well. That's the fifth, seventh dimensional consciousness. In third dimensional consciousness, you will be more like, oh, I don't think that works well with me. Why didn't I think of that? It will be more competitive. So when we want to enter this fifth, seventh dimensional state every day, to be aware of these signs, that's what we work with. Further on, some people actually have natural capacities trained through life for this being in the fifth sense, fifth dimensional consciousness. It's funny I said fifth sense, but fifth sense, but it's because we use the senses as an entrance. So the training through life is, by instance, by being alert in different ways. A lot of people which carrying a kind of sensitivity. We were talking the first day about unhandled sensitivity. And if you're carrying unhandled sensitivity, your system will often be alert because it search data often, and some of the sensitives is carrying huge data that's like entering through the system. And if any of these data doesn't fit together, then they begin to be alert. Some sensitives react to different moods, their own, but also others. And what is the sense of the energy in a room? they be alert if they have any sense of somebody being angry or sad, or if something is going to happen that they're not aware of, that they don't know. This way of being alert, as examples, actually train your capacity to be in fifth dimensional consciousness state. Also, if you have carried responsibility in different ages, you have like different levels of maturity where responsibility fits to these different maturity steps. But often when you have capacities for early entrance into these levels of consciousness, then you also will have activated responsibility that is at a higher level than your maturity. That also train this capacity. And by education and work, actually. So when you're educated, you train your consciousness, your mind, and the same at work with system and how things is connected and how one thing affect each other. That's also a training for the fifth dimensional consciousness state. By being a family as well. Because when you're a family, you are aware of, you can be aware by about everybody else and how their relation goes and how is the day and what is going around. It's also training for the fifth, seven dimensional consciousness state by life. All in all, everything that we're going through is a practice, it's a training. And both positive and negative activations count. Either way. That's good news, isn't it? What could be interesting to be aware of is that the positive activation can be used to reduce an effort. How can that be? How can that be? If you have a lot of positive experiences, that by being alert, you have experiences that you can have communications, you can have reactions, interactions that fits you well. And it's easy for you to do it. You can carry in your responsibility in a way that fits you well and gives you experience of being important, and that what you're doing doesn't demand much effort. If you have positive activations during your education and your work, you will be really skillful. And sometimes this creates that you make an effort, but sometimes it works the opposite way around. That it's enough that I'm good at this. I don't need to be good at anything else. I'm doing what I have to do. Doesn't make sense? Does it make sense? And that negative activation can be used to reduce hopes and goals. So if you have negative activations of the fifth dimensional consciousness state, seventh dimensional, then the being alert thing will be activating your nervous system, and you will often have a lot of experiences or some experiences that's about losing or not reaching what you would like and how you would like it to be. Being responsible in a different age will be activated negatively if you have experiences of not being able to take care of things. The responsibility is too much. No matter what you do, it doesn't work. And if you're with education and work, that you have it negatively activated in the fifth, seventh dimensional state, then you will be ignited by fright. Is it called that? And then you will work more and um, and expect that no matter what you do, it will not get you through. And the same as if you have been ignited by negatively by being a family, you lose a lot of reliability in a lot of things, and also by life by itself. And that might reduce hope and goals. And be used here is your system. That the seventh dimensional consciousness state can be used by your system to I have a misspelling here, sorry. Reduce, not deduce. Reduce the hope and the goals. To lower the expectations. And actually the positive activation, when you reduce an effort, it also lowers your expectations to yourself. And if you lower your expectation to yourself, that's not good when you are opening. Yes, you say it's so good. Thank you so much. Being aware of the energy in the room mostly happens automatically. Then you have this activation, then you're well trained. Isn't that good? That some of the things that maybe have been a burden, that it actually contains a kind of training that we can use when we are opening to these new possibilities. Okay. I promised the first day that I will talk more about as and decent. And it's the best words I could find. I know it has a kind of energy to it, and I'll talk more about that later. That words and expressions carries energies and definitions, and I tried to do my best, but I couldn't find better word for this. Just shortly, ascent. It's about gaining insight and knowledge. It creates an evolution of your brain function. It stands for the creation of science, the creation of the civilizations as we know it. The descent is gaining capacities. It access inner knowing. Ensure you reach your potentials, access competencies, and inherited abilities. Evolution of consciousness functionalities is related to the descent. So ascension, descension. Okay, let's move on here. So I had this figure I showed you yesterday. It's a really bad drawing. The person who drew it did a really good job. But what I meant is that this is characterized by the difficulty of explaining what it illustrates, that it's really difficult for me to explain it, and that means that it's not a good model. But until now, this is the best I got. So let's try to use it and see if it works well. If you're drifting now, if your consciousness is drifting, your focus is like it's difficult to listen, then you can use the training. Breathe a sigh, open one sense, and then you can have one of the senses is to listen to me, the other is to look. And then you can sense what you think of it, then it's 3. Okay, I try anyway. Definitions. These circles in the column is called main centers. It's in other ways, it's called, I just need to see that. In other ways, it's called a chakra. The reason why I do not use the word chakra is because it has the history. So one of the questions here is, what is the history? And the history is that throughout thousands of years, these have been described in different ways with different symbolic definitions within different systems, different religions. So I avoid as good as I can to use that word. So instead, I'll try to describe what I recognize that these main centers is. As I see it, they are like stabilization centers that ensures that the energy in your energy system is distributed as equal as possible, with as good as as good a flow as possible in your energetic system, energy system, in your energy body. It's like a parabolic, different, nearly mechanical instruments that works there. How is it related to dimensions? It's related to dimensions in a way that each of them is kind of related to how many reflections you have. So each of the centers when you're going up is related to how many reflections you have in your consciousness. So the first center, that's where you sit, it's one reflection, and the second is two, and so forth. And the reflections and dimensions, as I'm using the definitions, is completely related. So that's how it's related, the reflections and the dimensions. But when we talk about the dissensions, the dimensions is also, the reflections is also connecting the dimensions and connecting the main centers. So this is why I can't have a drawing that shows this. It's because it's multidimensional. I try anyway. Where is it located, these main centers? They are located, they're not located like it's drawn here, but this is how it's normally seen, because that's where it ignites in the body, because it's related in our system, in our creature, it's related in different parts of the body that actually, as I see it, it's related to where we are not focusing and where we're mostly focusing. So if we had a body with where we will focus the most in another place, the same centers will be placed differently. If we would be, I don't know. Let's don't go there. So we kind of say that they're placed like this, but they're not. They're placed anywhere in your system, and I'll try to explain that with the next steps. The origin, as I see it, the origin comes from a higher consciousness state that is fractalized in a system, and with these steps. So the origin is actually a higher consciousness state that has cracked and crashed. And the history is, I will go more into the history on the third day, a little bit more about the origin, because how you relate to this, how you rely on it, gives you a different ways to stay in the fifth dimension. So you'll have different like platforms to support yourself in staying. That will be what we will work with on the third day. Okay, let's go on. Description. So this was definitions. This is descriptions, and I already started a bit. Each center carry each other. Our third dimensional consciousness state can carry this, can it? Can you feel that it's like troubling your mind somehow? That it's stretching, it's difficult to carrying it in? If you do, let's shift into the fifth, then seventh dimensional state and try again. So we use the energy work here. Breathe. Create a sigh. One more. Maybe open your senses, a couple of them as well. And then try to be aware what happens here. Then you get this support with the energy work. Maybe you experience something, maybe you don't. But this is not the issue. So you don't need to recognize anything is going on yet. We'll just use the energy work a bit. And we have been opening to this from the beginning here. And now you can step into a deeper connection by agreeing upon getting the support from the energy. Just by saying yes inside of yourself. Yes, I participate in a way where I would like the support from the energy work to enter the fifth, seventh dimensional state. And I feel, we have a sharing here, I feel that we only take a part of our history with us. We have to use the new energy. Yes. Thank you. I'm with you in that one, for sure. Okay. So, by the energy work support, by your being aware, maybe support by opening a couple of your senses, then you can use your intentional consciousness, your choice, to step into the fifth, or what I call the seventh dimensional state. And then you try it out. Just sense if there's any immediate change. And then we try again to describe this and see if it reads you different, right? So each center carries each other and stabilizes different aspects. So the first center carries the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. The seventh is kind of a changing, a turnover center. So it doesn't really count the same way. The second one is carrying the first, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. The third is carrying the second, the first, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. Does it make sense? So each center carries each other. And they influence each other, mutual and multidimensional. So mutual because when the first center is carrying the second, the third, the fourth, and fifth, and the sixth, then each of the others will be stabilized due to the first. center. These is like stabilization centers that ensures that the energies that flows as equally distributed as possible. So they are influencing each other mutual, and they do it multidimensional because they do it back and forth and with each other at the same time. Does it make sense? And can you sense a difference in your capacity in taking this in? I'm curious, always curious to investigate this. Even though I have investigated it for 10 years, I'm still as eager to listen to what you experience when you work with this. Yes, we have one that experienced a difference. Isn't it funny? Isn't it interesting? And maybe you were already there. Maybe it doesn't help. It doesn't say anything about that. It doesn't make sense to you to join in. It's just different where it shows its value to you. And I tried to open it in many directions to make sense to as many of you as possible. Yeah, it looks and feels logical. Yeah, and is it different to how you experienced it before we entered together the fifth and the seventh seventh dimensional state? Because these small differences is what shows us that there's something here. Totally. Thank you. And this is what shows you that something here that's more than just words and talks and blah, 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 that you actually experience a difference. That's what it's about. And that will be different to each and every one of us. So I try to catch and throw as many balls as possible to invite you to have your experience with this. And often I experience and hear others have this experience that they join in and they have an experience, and then when they come back after some time, it's completely different and actually shows what's it about by how it works. That the difference shows that there was a shift, and now I understand it more. I love this. Thank you. Okay, move on with the description. You could learn a little about this, a little more about this in other teachings, and in a lot of more teachings. We just touch it shortly. That these centers relies upon and relates to these levels of reflection. So the first level would be reaction, a reflex that's just going on, one in and out. The second is about reaching out. It's about needs. So you're not just taking what's coming by, you choose where to reach. The third is interactions, relations by facts. So that I relate to you because I do this, you relate to me because you do this. We are in this together because we have agreed upon this. That's the third. The fourth is sharing, loving, and caring. So here is another way where we relate. So that's a special kind of relation. The fourth. The fifth is communication inside and outside. So it's both about how you function with your mirroring and with your inner talks, your inner voice, how you discuss things with yourself, how you express things within yourself, your inner voice, and on the outside, how you communicate, how you do this with a lot of things. Well, that's interesting. Just shut this down. And I did it. Maybe you saw that somebody put up an ad for something for grown-ups, and I was like, I only needed one reaction, one reflection, and then the second one to agree with myself upon shutting it down because it doesn't suit well here. I hope they'll find something, another place where it fits well. Okay, the sixth is about understanding, and the seventh about connection. And the sharing here, very interesting. I try to feel the difference in many ways. Where am I now? Why am I angry? And so on. I would that mean I'm in third dimensions, or what dimensions am I in? It is my way of feeling and growing. Thank you for sharing. I just reflect upon it. That's actually fifth dimensional. That's actually fifth dimensional consciousness state in my definition. So this means that you have access to your feelings, you express them, and you are aware of them, and you have to reflect with them before you can find out what it's about. Is it right? So before you know why you're angry, you have to work a bit with it, and before you can express why you're angry, you work with it, and then you can find a way to express it. This is about fifth dimensional consciousness state, and I don't know what it's called in the other dimensions, and no other definitions. Sorry, I reflect also. Yes, and to reflect is good, but when you're in the seventh dimensional consciousness, it opens in a way where you reflect, but the what would you call it? You'll find out in a really short while, maybe immediately, why you're angry. So you reflect upon feeling angry, having this expression, and then nearly immediately when you reflect, you know why, and nearly immediately you know how to express it in a way that suits you well. And how well it suits you depend on the descent, how well the descent is working. Does it make sense? So you reflect, but how long you need for the reflection before you get to find out your description about it, or yeah, I agree. Okay. So I just take it one step back here. So when, by instance, I feel angry, often the anger comes from the first level, but not always. It can be in the fifth level as well, where you have an interaction, where you communicate with somebody, and then you get tense. You have experience of not being heard, or that somebody is crossing your boundary, and then you get angry. Then it's like ping-ponging down through the system. Is this somebody that I'm caring about? Is this somebody I have agree with? Is this somebody that I have I feel for being together with them or not? Does it make sense? So the anger can begin in any part of the system, even though we say that it's related to the first center. It can be by recognizing something, acknowledging something, and then describing it, have a sense of how connected I am with this through my heart. Is this something I'm involved with? Is it something I would like to be involved with or not? So it can be interacting and beginning in a lot of ways. If we have free access for all the different levels to interact with each other, we are at the seventh consciousness state, the seventh dimensional consciousness state. And if it's the eighth consciousness state that we relate to, then we can immediately see what it's about. We can express it, but we can express it in a way that we can relate to at this moment. When we are at the ninth dimensional consciousness state, we can interpret it on it. We know immediately how it is. We can express it. We can put words upon it. We know what we mean about it and what to do with it. That's a ninth consciousness state, ninth dimensional consciousness state. In the 10th dimensional consciousness state, I have this sense, I know all the things above, and then I also can calculate in within the same second, what would this cost me? What would this cost my heart if I'm carrying in this anger and everything that goes with it? And then I can balancing it out with this acknowledgement of what it means to me in my heart. And the same with the 11th dimensional consciousness state. Then I can take this in, leveling it deeper into, is this somebody I have an agreement with? And in this agreement, can I ensure that it is still aligned with things I'm caring about, what I can express and how I see things, and with all the others activated as well as at the same time. With the 12th, I can at the same time meet, okay, is it important to me that this makes a difference? I'm angry and all of the above. I'm connected with this, I'm balanced with this, I'm aligned. And then I can have this experience that I know I have to ensure that something is happening here. I can only live with that I make something happen here that makes a difference related to what I'm angry about. And I still carrying all the other levels in at the same time. And in the 13th, I can ensure that all ignitions in my system has a function for me to ignite my consciousness. If I get angry, I can open it in different perspectives at the same time and still carrying all the other layers, all the other parts of being aware when the dissension process is fulfilled. Does it make sense? It's difficult, isn't it? Can you see why I can't create this drawing? It's like, but how does it land and work in your consciousness? Can you carry it? Can you sense your capacity to take this in somehow? In the descent, the inner reflect. So in the ascension, there's a reflection. In the descensions, the reflection is in an inner reflection. So Let's make it simple, okay? This is complicated, don't you think? I think it's really complicated. I've investigated it because I'm nerdy with these things. So I keep on asking questions and going through the visions and the experiences and the inner teachings to see if I can catch it in a way where it makes sense all the way. I agree in all you say, and I think it's a good drawing to use. Thank you so much. Me too. I think it's a good drawing to use, but it takes so much time to try to describe it before it makes any sense. Maybe it intuitively give us some kind of sense, but it's problematic because it might give so much sense that it, um, you will you will have acknowledgement of this that doesn't fit with what I'm trying to express. So it might twitch what I try to explain, and that would be not so good. So you could think that they are not internally connected, right? I try to draw this, but it becomes really not making sense at all. Okay, so let's make it simple. I wouldn't be able to repeat what you said, but it made sense to me. Thank you so much. And I understand it completely. Okay. So let's make it simple. We have one training session now, and the next comes here. See if you can catch as many sudden inner reactions in your own system as possible. Second, try to catch them with curiosity and a warm-hearted intention to investigate and listen to these sudden inner reactions. Collect them and recognize the patterns that appear by itself. So, okay. So when you're in this seventh dimensional consciousness state, the fifth dimension, and you use your everyday life to zeroing. And then you go in this zeroing state, and then something suddenly appears by itself, a sudden inner reaction. And what would normally happen when you have such a sudden inner reaction? How would it go if you go around in your everyday life like it is now? If you have a thought, a feeling, an idea that suddenly appears, what will happen when you're in this zeroing state? It would probably different from day to day and to each and everybody. In and out. Yes. Yes. Often you'll be drawn out of this zeroing state, and you'll be in the third dimensional consciousness state where you'll have this with the, see if I can have it in this later. I brought in some of the old ones. So then you will be in this system, right? And you will maybe not go back to the zeroing state. So you'll be working yourself around in this. And then you will lose it. And often I will descend, yes. And if you descend, then you will catch this feeling, this idea, this thought, and then you will meet it, and then you will open through it. That will be the descension. Then you will stay in the fifth, seventh dimensional state of consciousness. So if you lose it and you will go down to the third dimensional consciousness state, then you will not be zeroing anymore, and then you will be working yourself around in the system and lose your connection shortly, or until you're zeroing again. So the training here, does it make sense? So when you're here and you're quiet and you try to catch whatever opens by itself, the first feeling, the first reaction, the first thought that comes by, what would that be? My first one is a little like, it's a little tension in my chest. And I know that this is related to that the youth in the Denmark today is out celebrating the beginning of Christmas. And yeah, even though I had a lot of fun myself, I'm so grown up now and responsible in another way. So I get these tensions, being a little bit worried when they are out. And I remember, so I meet this tension with affection and warm-hearted curiosity. And I find it, and yeah, I remember how I used to think it was funny when my parents had the same reaction. So I understand it from both sides, and use it to also understand my parents at that time. Does it make sense? What was your first reaction that come by? And this is the next training. This is the training that ensures that you can enter the fifth dimensional consciousness state every day. And that you use all the different situations we talked about, zeroing in, zeroing, and then you go in this zeroing state, and then you catch the first things that appears by itself. Meet it warm-hearted with curiosity, investigate and listen to it, collect them, and then recognize the pattern that appears by itself if you catch these different out of nowhere reactions, and collect them warm-hearted, curious, and see, what is this? Where does it come from? That's the second training that goes by this second day of the webinar, related to how to enter the fifth dimension in every day and how to stay. And on the third day, we will go on further talking about how to stay. And I hope you enjoyed this teaching, this sharing, and would like to come back for some more. I love this. Maybe it shows itself. I really think it's important and interesting, so much that I try to share it in a lot of ways. And it's because it means so much to me, not to everybody. So, like other things that you can use your awareness on or at, does it make sense? Does it give you more than it costs? That's important to always be aware of. So that's different to every one of us, and it's important that we have different things that we find interesting and important, and then we take care of that part. This is what I find interesting and important, and I try to take care of it as much as possible. Thank you for joining in with this with me, and for the time you spent here. I hope you have a sense of it giving you more than it took. And I hope to see you on the third day and hear how it went with this training, or that you will use the possibility to write it later on if you have experience with this. This is something that grows with time. So to have this day by day experience, that's actually to promise a lot. Hope you have a wonderful evening or day if you come by in another time zone or through the replay possibility. Bye for now.